Hello students. Today we will understand one of the most productive climate regions on Earth, the warm temperate eastern margin climate. But don't treat China type, Gulf type and Natal type as three unrelated labels. That is weak preparation. They are one climate family spread across three continents, producing three distinct weather patterns but one broad outcome: lush vegetation, long growing seasons, and extremely productive agriculture. This chapter is not about memorizing names. It is about understanding why the east margins of continents in warm temperate latitudes become so fertile. Start with identity. This climate lies roughly between 20 degrees and 40 degrees north and south, on the eastern margins of continents, just outside the tropics. That location matters. These regions are warmer and wetter than the Mediterranean climate. And here is the distinction you must lock immediately. Rain falls mainly in summer, not in winter. This is where most aspirants get careless. They see warm temperate and start mixing it with Mediterranean climate. Don't. Mediterranean means winter rain. Eastern margin means summer rain. Now split the family into its three types. First, the China type, which is temperate monsoonal. Its main regions are central and north China and southern Japan. Second, the Gulf type, which is only slightly monsoonal. This is seen in the southeastern USA, especially the belt bordering the Gulf of Mexico. Third, the Natal type, controlled by maritime trade winds. That includes Natal in South Africa, New South Wales in Australia, and parts of Paraná, Uruguay, and northern Argentina. All three are on eastern margins. But the cause of rainfall is different in each case. That is the real exam key. Stop memorizing the list. Memorize the mechanism. Now begin with the China type, the monsoon giant. Its entire system is driven by intense pressure differences between the Asiatic interior and the Pacific Ocean. In summer, the interior heats up, pressure falls, and moist winds are drawn in from the Indian Ocean. That gives heavy rain, around 100 centimeters brought by the southeast monsoon. In winter, the landmass cools sharply, pressure rises over the interior, and winds reverse. The northwest monsoon then blows outward as cold, dry winds. That is why this type has a very clear seasonal rhythm: wet summer, dry winter. And because the continental interior is so massive, the annual temperature range is large. Winters are much colder than in the other two types. Add to that late summer typhoons, and you get the full China type signature. Now compare that with the Gulf type, where the Atlantic influence dominates. Here, you do get onshore winds and a summer rainfall peak, but you do not get a complete wind reversal like East Asia. That is the first distinction. So the monsoonal character is weaker. Rainfall is still heavy, around 100 to 150 centimeters, but it comes from onshore trade winds and frequent summer thunderstorms. And the weather can turn violent. This region is exposed to hurricanes, especially in September and October, and also to tornadoes, helped by strong land heating and unstable air masses. This is the classic prelims trap. China type has a distinct dry winter. Gulf type does not. If you miss that difference, you will mix the two every time. Now move to the Natal type, where the landmass itself changes the climate. The key constraint is simple. The continent is narrow. And a narrow landmass cannot build the kind of strong interior ocean pressure contrast that Asia can. So there is no true monsoonal reversal. Instead, maritime influence dominates throughout the year. That is why rainfall is more evenly distributed, generally around 100 to 150 centimeters annually, carried by trade winds. This is the deeper contrast you must remember. Asia is the giant. It can create a continental monsoon. South America and Africa are narrower in the relevant belt, so the sea never really loses control. Also note the local winds associated with these southern regions. Southerly Buster in Australia, Pampero in Argentina, and Berg winds in Africa, which are hot and dry. Now compress the comparison into one matrix. In terms of seasonality, the China type has a summer maximum with a distinct dry winter. The Gulf type has no distinct dry period. The Natal type shows even rainfall distribution. In terms of driving force, China type is ruled by pressure reversal, meaning monsoon. Gulf type is controlled by onshore trades plus hurricanes. Natal type is dominated by maritime trades. In terms of temperature, China type has a large annual range and colder winters. Gulf type has a smaller range with cool winters. Natal type has the smallest range with warm winters. That first row is where students lose marks. Seasonality is the common trap. Get that right and most MCQs collapse quickly. Now look at the natural vegetation. Where rainfall is heavy, warmth is sufficient, and there is no long dry season, plant growth becomes almost continuous. That is why the lowlands support evergreen broadleaf and deciduous forests, while the highlands support conifers or softwoods. The central formula is the real point. Heavy rainfall plus warmth plus no dry season equals continuous growing season. That is why perennial plant growth is not checked either by drought or by severe freezing. This climate is agriculturally powerful because nature does not shut the growing season down for long. Now come the timber and economic plants, and you should attach them regionally. In South America, remember Paraná pine, quebracho, literally the axe breaker because of its hardness, and yerba mate, the tea-like plant. In Africa, remember wattle, especially mimosa types, and ironwoods. In Australia, remember eucalyptus, especially as an export-linked timber tree. And in East Asia, remember oak, camphor, and camellia. Do not treat this as random botany. These plants are products of a warm, wet, long-growing season climate. Now shift to the economic core. This is one of the world's great food baskets, arguably the most productive part of the middle latitudes. The logic is simple and brutally important. Adequate rain plus no drought plus mild winter equals year-round farming. That is why you see different crop specializations across continents. In Asia, the classic combination is rice, tea, and mulberry trees. In America, major crops include corn, cotton, and tobacco. Same climate family, different historical and regional crop dominance. That is how you should compare climates in geography, not only by rainfall and temperature, but by what they enable economically. Now focus on the American example. King corn. The emphasis here is dominance. The USA is shown as producing more than 50% of world corn, with only about 3% exported. That sounds counterintuitive until you understand the phrase given here. Corn on the hoof. It means most corn is not sold directly as grain. It is first converted into animal products. Animals are fattened on corn, and what ultimately gets sold is meat, not the grain itself. And why is corn so prolific here? because of humid summer heat and rich soils. This is the classic corn belt logic. Climate plus soil turns maize into a mass production crop. Now cotton, the deep south crop. Its ideal formula is extremely specific. About 200 frost-free days, around 40 inches of rain, and bright sunshine between showers. That combination supports strong cotton growth and fiber development. Then comes the quality distinction. The best cotton is the Sea Island type, a long staple variety grown along the coast, especially in Georgia and South Carolina, where sea breezes improve fiber quality. Move inland and the staple becomes shorter. Key producing regions here include the Mississippi floodplains and the Texas-Oklahoma prairies. This is where careful students gain an edge. Not just cotton grows in the south, but which south, and why the coastal fiber is superior. Now tobacco, the native crop of America. Its origin matters. This is not an imported crop. It is native to America. The most famous variety mentioned here is Virginia tobacco, and the location logic is straightforward. The Gulf states and adjoining southeastern belt provide a humid atmosphere and well-drained soils, which tobacco likes. Key states include Virginia, Maryland, Kentucky, and the Carolinas. Again, the lesson is not the list of states. It is the pairing of crop requirement with climate and soil setting. Now widen the lens again with southern crops and the China paradox. In the southern hemisphere, especially nettle and comparable South American belts, cane sugar becomes dominant. In Australia, especially Victoria and New South Wales, important activities include dairying milk and butter and maize cultivation. Then comes the China paradox. China is the world's top rice grower. But despite that, it still imports food grains because population pressure is so high. So the farming system is not primarily export-oriented. It is largely subsistence-focused, geared toward feeding a massive domestic population. This is a strong reminder. High productivity does not automatically mean export surplus. Now consolidate everything the way a serious aspirant should. Location: 20 degrees to 40 degrees north and south on the eastern margins of continents. Climate: summer rain maximum. But the mechanism differs. Monsoon in China, trade wind and Atlantic influence in the Gulf, and maritime trades in Natal. Vegetation: luxuriant, with markers like quebracho and eucalyptus. Economy: one of the most productive mid-latitude regions in the world. Crops: rice in Asia, corn and cotton in the USA. If you can explain the mechanism, not just the label, this chapter is under control and you are exam ready.